Seguimos con el doctor Aubrey de Grey, nuevos avances en la extensión de la longevidad.
Thank you very much, and good morning, as I gather we're supposed still to say in Spain. I shouldn't be speaking in this session. I was originally scheduled to be speaking tomorrow, and I have been thrust into this session because my friend Dr. João Pedro de Magalhães cannot be here today and is only arriving tomorrow, so we have been swapped. But the result is that my prepared remarks are actually not about cryopreservation, they are about longevity. So my talk is more of an extension of the previous session. However, I have decided to change what I'm going to say a little bit and to shorten my prepared remarks to maybe 10 minutes for the second half of my time, so that I can spend the first half talking about cryopreservation a little bit. And since Dr. Cabo started the session by being proudly provocative, I thought I would do the same thing and say what I think of what Dr. Cabo said. Because we all know, and medics know better than anybody, that the decision as to whether somebody is dead at a particular point is not perfect, that medics get it wrong sometimes, and that's why there are quite a lot of people walking around today who were once declared to be dead. We know that the conventional definition of death, the criteria that medics have to investigate in order to make that pronouncement, has changed over the years as a result of medical progress that has allowed people who might previously have been thought to be dead to be actually revived. So we must be very clear that death is not this certain, instantaneous process that society and the law pretends that it is. We must remember that all biologists and all medics know that death is actually a gradual process which involves a period of time during which we cannot really say whether someone is dead or not. And the whole point of cryonics is to exploit that uncertainty. So I'm going to tell you what I say aging is. It is simply the accumulation of damage that happens as a result of the way the body works. And in that sense, it is really the same process for a living organism, like you or me, that it is for a non-living machine, like a car or an aeroplane. Aging is not a phenomenon of biology. It is a phenomenon of physics. We've been extremely successful over the past 200 years or so in developing ways to eliminate the ill health of early life. 200 years ago, more than 1/3 of babies, even in the wealthiest countries, would die before the age of 1, and now hardly any of them do. And that was done really easily, just by figuring out that hygiene is a good idea and very simple medicines. We have made very little progress against aging. Why? If you ask most people, and that includes most medics, to classify disease, to say in what ways can we be sick, they would say something like what I am showing in this table. They would say, well, there are infectious diseases, that's column 1. There are genetic diseases, that's column 2. There are the chronic progressive diseases of old age, like Alzheimer's or most cancers or atherosclerosis, that's column 3. Then there is this other completely separate thing out in the stratosphere called aging itself, which consists of these very nebulous, poorly defined things like frailty, or the loss of muscle mass as we get older. That's what sarcopenia is. Things like that. They think of these things as not diseases. And this kind of implies that they are off limits for medicine and that they are kind of natural and inevitable and we shouldn't really be thinking about controlling them with medicine. It's nonsense. The correct way to think about the ways we get sick is like this. All the columns are just the same as before, but the big black line is in a different place, to emphasize the fact that column 3 is nothing like column 1. The things that happen in old age are not infections. They are side effects of being alive. And the difference between column 3 and column 4 is purely semantic. If we're not proposing to slow down the rate at which metabolism creates damage, then we don't need to understand metabolism very well. All we need to do is understand damage and characterize it and figure out how to repair it. Similarly, if we can repair damage, we don't need to understand why having a lot of damage is bad for you, why pathologies happen, because we're not going to let there be a lot of damage in the first place. We're going to keep damage low. And of course it works. This is common sense, because we already successfully do it for simple man-made machines. Remember what I told you at the beginning, that aging is fundamentally a phenomenon of physics, not biology. Therefore, we can look at simple man-made machines and see whether the maintenance approach works, and sure enough it does. Here is a car that's more than 100 years old. Now, that's impressive, and what's even more impressive is that this car is working every bit as well as when it was built. Fantastic. But here's the most impressive thing. It's not doing that because it was designed to. This car was not designed to last 100 years. It was probably designed to last 10 years. But it's still going. Why? Because comprehensive preventative maintenance works. It really works. If you can restore and maintain the structure and composition of a machine, however complicated the machine is, then you are also going to restore and maintain that machine's function. We actually don't need to worry about how complicated the body is. We only need to worry about how complicated the damage is, this set of intermediates between metabolism and pathology. If we can characterize and repair that damage, we're done. And it turns out that things are looking pretty promising. If you look at the left-hand side of this table, this is my classification of the types of damage that occur in the body. There are many, 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 many types of damage, but I claim that they can all be fitted into this 7-point classification. All of them are, in one way or another, examples of one of these categories. And if you look at these categories, they are very clear, concrete, well-defined things. For example, the first one, cell loss. What is that? It's just cells dying and not being automatically replaced by the division of other cells. If that happens, then obviously the number of cells in the affected organ will go down, and eventually there won't be enough cells for the organ to do its job, and you get some kind of disease or disability. An example would be Parkinson's disease, which is caused by the loss of a particular type of neuron in a particular part of the brain. And if we look at the right-hand side of this table, the good news, of course, is that there are entries in it for every row. In other words, for each of these categories, we have a generic approach to implementing the maintenance strategy. Here's just a summary of some of the papers that we've published over the past few years in this area, making real breakthroughs that have unblocked logjams that have stalled research in very important areas of damage repair for upwards of 10 or 15 years. These areas are now moving forward very effectively. And, of course, other work done by other people has done the same thing, has actually also helped to advance this. And that's really why the whole idea of rejuvenation biotechnology has become a mainstream concept. And it really is mainstream. This is our scientific advisory board. These are all real world leaders in this area. These are people who have put their names to the rejuvenation approach, and they have reputations that they could lose if they were putting their names to things that didn't make scientific sense and technological sense. But they do. Here's someone whose face you may recognize, Dr. Blasco, whom you met this morning. She's been on our scientific advisory board for a long time. She's a good friend of mine. And her work is very much an example of the kind of rejuvenation that I'm talking about. Thank you very much. I may have overrun.